Mario Party. It is one of the essential Nintendo multiplayer franchises. It is the perfect kind of game to play with your friends, barely pay attention, get unreasonably mad when bad things happen to you, laugh when bad things happen to other players, and ultimately see who reigns supreme in the end. However, a lot of people only seem to talk about the minigames, when boards are in fact what makes the series so fun. Top 100. Mario Party also went through a dark path for a little bit, and while I can occasionally have some fun playing those, the traditional style of boards is where it's at. I'm going to be ranking every Mario Party board to see which ones I want to whip out during a party, and which ones would get you kicked out of my house. I'll be counting every game's main mode except for Advance, since that's a completely different thing. So no Bowser Party, Amiibo Party, or whatever that one mode in 5 was. Oh, I'm also not including Superstars, since they're not that different from the originals. Also, you're probably not going to agree with this list, which is fine. I mean, there's 85 different boards. I'd be more concerned if you agreed with me exactly. And besides, at least we can all agree that Rules Land is definitely the greatest Mario Party board of all time. Anyways, let's actually get to the list now. Let's, go. Or whatever.
You suck, you jackass!
Mario Party the top 100 is the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. Okay, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I still hate it. Not only is it just a bad compilation of 100 minigames, it only has one board, and it is the sorriest excuse for a board I've ever seen. Okay, so even though the minigames are all from the older games, the board takes all of its mechanics from Star Rush. As you'll see later on, I hate that game as well. But the main takeaway is that it's an open space, and you can move to any grid you like. Also, everybody moves at the same time, which may seem like a time saver, but it's really not. Everybody still has to watch the cutscene for their space they landed on individually. And on top of that, everybody's trying to get the stars. But if two people get it at the same time, just give it to whoever was closer first, so there's no strategy in the slightest. You just hope you get good enough rolls to get the star. And it's not like there's any reason to go anywhere besides where the star is, because there's just nothing. There's some item spaces placed around and a minigame balloon appears sometimes. That's it. There's nothing else. This board is one of the biggest wastes of time I've ever seen. I didn't even bother finishing a game of this. I finished every other board on this list, and this is the one where I drew the line. Top 100's board is the worst experience I've ever had playing Mario Party, and I mean that. Fuck this game. I'm really glad they actually decided to revisit the older games and make it good after this abomination.
Yeah! Going to the moon! Moon ride! Moon ride! Moon ride!
Rocket Road from Island 2 is such a nothing board. It's what, like 20 spaces long, and the goal is just to get to the end first? They try to add strategy with these booster things that multiply your roll based on how many you use, up to 4. And on top of that, the 6 is replaced with a 0. So all you need to do is win one minigame, use all your boosters, and as long as you don't get a 0, you win. What a waste of time.
You might call me a pussy, but I won't hear you in my safe space. My safe space.
Bonsai Bill's Mad Mountain from Island 2 is very similar to Rocket Road. The board is only like 20 spaces long, and the goal is to get to the end first. This is just one of those clickbait Mario Party titles. Mario Party, but if you roll a 6, you die. So yeah, just like in Rocket Road, there's no 6. But instead of it being a 0, it unleashes a Bonsai Bill that will send anyone it hits back to start or the halfway point depending on where you are. The only way to avoid the Bonsai Bill is to hide in these safe spaces. This is another board where it's just all luck, even though the game pretends the safe spaces are a good bit of strategy when they're not. This is just another waste of time where it either takes 5 seconds to finish or it takes forever. Terrible.
I know, but what good is being player 1 now? We're just gonna die in this lava!
Here we get the worst board with the car, Magma Mine from 9. Starting off, yeah, the car mechanic is terrible. I bet you've never heard that one before. I don't understand what it's trying to be. All the dialogue acts like we're working together to defeat all the bosses, but it's not actually that, we're just competing for mini-stars, which you can only get by passing mini-star spots on the board when you are in control of the car. But you can't control where you take control of the car, so what's even the point? What happens to you isn't determined by the moves you make, or even the moves that the other players make. It's determined by the rolls that everybody else has. But you've already heard all of that before. What about Magma Mine itself? What the fuck do you think? Okay, so it starts out just as boring as every other cardboard, with this dumb wheel thing that chooses which way you go. Gee, I hope that doesn't come back later and make the board even worse. And there's a captain event that is just dumb, like every other captain event. Just hope you don't fall off and lose your mini-stars. That's it. Then after you beat the first boss, Oh no, the magma is rising. It rises 2 spaces every turn, and if it hits you, you lose half of your mini stars. Did it really need to be half? Like, that is such a huge punishment for something that is 99% luck based. That's already bad enough. But I guess the devs just decided it would be funny to spam all these spaces that make it rise even more. Especially towards the end, like, are there enough magma rising spaces here? I don't think there are. This paired with not being able to control where you take control of the car, along with the direction wheel thing taking away the one thing someone could control with the car, just makes a miserable experience. There are a ton of instances where if you don't roll a certain number, you're just screwed. That's terrible design. And after you escape the lava, it just reverts back to the same old boring gameplay as the beginning, as if nothing happened. Now it's just a straight line with Bowser spaces everywhere. Wow. Magma Mine did a horrible job at justifying the car mechanic, and it's an awful experience. Blooper Beach from 9 is just a slog. First, you're trying to catch a dolphin and like run away from a shark or something. I don't know, I was just watching my cat play with my wrist strap. Then you get to this really annoying part where the question mark spaces turn every mini star into a mini star. Yes, that's really what they call them. But like, what's the point of that? Either everyone gets mini stars or loses them, so it's not even trying to change up the standings. The captain event is also really boring and dumb, because everyone has their own path, but all of them are the exact same except for the captains, so you're just watching the exact same thing happens 4 times in a row. It can also just ruin the entire game if you get unlucky with how big the gap in the mini stars can get, and that's never fun. Also, there's 2 of them on this board, and that makes it even worse. Then on top of that, there are 2 points where if you land on certain spaces, you get stuck in an infinite loop, and it's really hard to get out. That's even worse with this dumb car because the longer you're stuck, the longer the game goes on for. This board has so many different elements that don't work together well at all, and it is just dragged down by so many inconveniences.
Boo! Haunted house.
Boo's Horror Castle, also from 9, is also a slog. The main gimmick with this one is that boos chase you, and you lose half of your... Are you fucking kidding me? Could they really not decide any other punishment in this game besides losing half of your mini stars? There are also these light rooms that act as a safe space from the boos. They aren't even safe because they take longer to get through than the normal path. So by the time you get out of the room, the boo is already there. Then after you escape that, you get yet another terrible captain event. If you couldn't tell by now, I really hate the captain events in this game. They are all so luck-based and can have big implications of the game, as was the case with Blooper Beach's captain event. In this one, you catch a rat. Whoever is the one to do so gets all the stars. Cool, what a waste of time. The captain barely even does anything here. Well, what was the point of that? Then you enter this loop where the boos are still chasing you, and the end gate is blocked by a wall where if you don't roll high enough number when you get to it, you go around again. This isn't as bad as the end of Blooper Beach, but it still isn't fun in the slightest. It's just another case of being way too short and worthless, or way too long and just being a bore. There's no in between. Overall, Mario Party 9 sucks. I can't believe that people actually think 8 is worse.
Instead of coins, you collect mini stars by winning mini games.
Star Crossed Skyway from Island Tour. I don't even know, I'm running out of things to say about these boards. I guess they decided that a race wasn't good enough because they added mini stars. But you still just race to get the mini stars. So there's no strategy and no reason to play the board. But sometimes the first person to get to the end of the section loses the most stars. Wow, what a game changer, that makes it even worse. There are also spaces that switch the order of the amounts of stars you get, but there's only one that shifts it by 1, and one where the player who lands on it gets to rearrange the entire order. This slight amount of time gives me the slight amount of hope that the board has some strategy to it, but it doesn't. The only thing that somewhat saves this board is those rearrangement spaces. That's it, just avoid this one.
Oh no.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't have it in me to rank the Star Rush boards separately. They're all so boring and uninteresting that they just blend in with each other. Oh yeah, I'm only counting the worlds, not each individual level, because the only difference is the layout. But the layout doesn't matter in the slightest, because why would you go anywhere besides where the star is? These are definitely better than the top 100, because there's at least some things, like the allies and some gimmicks. Anyway, the order is as follows. The worst one is World 2. The gate things are just annoying and make it not fun in the slightest. Next is World 0. It's almost as bland as top 100, and that's no good. World 1 is still very boring, but it's a little better than 0. I have no idea why we needed both of these. Up next, the cake one, World 3. It's a cake, that's it. And finally, World 4 has a pretty unique lava rising gimmick that you can strategize around, so it's the best. The biggest problem with Star Rush's boards is that there's just nothing to do. The concept of a fully open board is really cool, but why did they do that if they didn't even bother to add anything of interest throughout? I was thinking before I made this list that Star Rush would be better compared to the other ones on this list, but they were just way too boring.
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
Bowser Station is the last major board in 9, and it is way more generous than the other ones for some reason. I mean, that makes it better than the other Mario Party 9 boards I've talked about so far, but it's still Mario Party 9. See, the main gimmick isn't just make everyone lose all of their stars because it's funny. There's a jackpot machine in the middle, and spaces that add many stars to it. There are also a couple of jackpot spaces on the board that give you all of the mini stars. Also, when the jackpot rises to 20 mini stars, a minigame is played to see who gets the majority of the jackpot. A Mario Party 9 board that kind of relies on skill? Never thought I'd see the day. However, the thing that drags this board down is definitely the captain events. As if it wasn't enough to have 1 or 2 terrible captain events per board, Bowser Station has 3. The first one is pretty much just give free mini-stars to the captain, and give the crumbs to everyone else. This bingo one will either give someone a huge mini-star advantage or make someone lose a ton of them. And the rocket one is just a waste of time. If it wasn't for the captain events, I could see this one being the best of the worst. Good thing I'm not counting boss battles towards the ranking, because the Bowser and Bowser Jr. bosses suck.
Country toads, take me home to the place I belong.
Toad Road from 9 was our first look into what the new style of gameplay would bring. Nothing. It brings fucking nothing. It does a really bad job at trying to introduce the car. Like at first, okay, even though all the players are riding together, they're still competing. But then you get to a broken bridge, and wait, we're trying to work together now? I don't understand. Why does the board have this one point where the players have to work together? Even though it doesn't matter because it's decided by dice rolls, because of course it is. If you make it across, you get a path filled with mini star spaces. And if you don't, you get a path filled with mini star spaces. Just like with Blooper Beach, it's just pointless and doesn't mean anything by the end of the game. There is thankfully only one captain event, and it's better than the other captain events, but not by a lot. The rest of the board is just bland and boring, but compared to a lot of these other boards, that's a miracle.
Insulting a man's ship be worse than insulting his mother.
No, wait, it was his mother you said was dirty, not his ship.
I can't believe it. I actually liked Mario Party 10's boards better than the majority of Mario Party 9's. Have I gone mad? Yeah, probably. Anyway, Airship Central still isn't very good. The beginning with the different ships switching every turn is really annoying, but it's at least a neat idea. Then you get to the part where an airship shoots at 2 different spaces, and if you get hit, you lose half your mini stars. Where have I heard that one before? This section doesn't last that long, and it leads into one of the best ideas the car gameplay has ever had, which I know isn't saying much, especially after this same board didn't have anything that fun, but still, the part where you actually fight the airship by landing on attack spaces and avoiding unlucky spaces that will have the ship fire back at you is a really cool idea. It's definitely not anywhere near good, but that one cool idea is enough to be better than a bunch of boards that were just bad ideas and boring execution. Also, this goes for every Mario Party 10 board, but the lack of any captain events really helps. All they really did was make the game go on for longer and make everything you worked for meaningless. Also, the pacing in this game is much better than 9's, so at least it doesn't feel like you're wasting hours of your life, with the Toad explaining every single thing, even though you can already tell what everything is just by looking at it. And every time you get mini stars, you have to wait for your character to go, Yahoo! And you still have to watch the counter go up and, oh my god, I hate these games, please let me be done already.
Bombs? You want it? It's yours, my friend, as long as you have enough rubies.
But Bomb Factory from 9 isn't the worst thing ever. What a shock. The beginning has a conveyor belt gimmick that is kind of neat, the middle section of switching lanes is kind of cool, and the bomb is one of the better hazards since the players can kind of control who gets hit by it. After the bomb drops, once the car moves 10 spaces, the captain at the time will lose half their mini stars. This gives one of the only times where your alternate dice blocks can actually mean something, other than getting out of the shitty scenario that the randomness of the game put you in. It provides the slightest bit of strategy. The captain event is also the least painful captain event in the entire game. Don't get me wrong, the board is still bad, but there are some hints of a good board here.
His name isn't Chaos. It's Chaos.
Chaos Castle from 10 is another one that almost seems like it's a decent board. While there are many hazards, none of them are devastating enough to be that terrible. Even if you do get hit by one, you still feel like you're in the game. Even though this is Mario Party 10, so you're not. The Toad being locked in the cage is a neat idea, and there's a nice twist on Bowser being in a cage throughout the rest of the game's boards. There's also parts where you have to time a jump across the lava. Holy crap, there's actually something skill-based in one of these boards. That is, until the very end, when one of the worst hazards of the car comes up. Bowser shoots fire every turn, there's barely any safe spots, and you lose half your mini-stars when you get hit. That section doesn't last that long though, so it's not the worst thing ever, but it does sour what could have been the best of the worst boards.
Dad, when do we get to the ride?
This is the ride! Yippee!
Seriously, I'm running out of things to say about these boards. Mushroom Park from 10 is still a bad board, but slightly better than the previous boards. There's not really any annoying hazards aside from the usual car bullshit. The theme park aesthetic is cute. Some of the lucky spaces let you ride some of the rides, and it's cute. What do you want me to say? The better pacing of Mario Party 10 makes it better than Toad Road and Bomb Factory. Mario Party 9's boards were a slog to get through, and while 10 fundamentally isn't any better, the fact is, its faster pace makes it slightly better to me. Also, there's no captain events in 10. Fuck captain events.
Wow, Green Shy Guy. And you knew it was going to be Green Shy Guy because it's always been Green Shy Guy. That was destroyed.
Incredible stuff, man.
Oh my god, a board that has different structure, finally! Shy Guy's Shuffle City from Island Tour is the only Mario Party board where you can't have CPUs. I'm not really sure why, it seems like it would work fine with CPUs, but whatever. I guess I'll have to compromise. Anyway, the board isn't that good. Shocker. The idea of having cards and stealing one every turn and having someone be stuck with a Bowser card is a cool idea, but let me reiterate, a good idea does not equal a good board. First of all, it's really short. We're already off to a bad start. So everyone is given 3 cards with 1 Bowser card thrown in the shuffle. At the beginning of everyone's turn, they draw 1 card from the next person's pile, and then use the card to move. Whoever has the Bowser card after 3 turns will get a minor penalty that doesn't mean much. The holder of the Bowser card also can't win, which is pretty dumb since you can't really control if you have it or not. I mean, you can try to shuffle around your cards before one gets taken, but it's random either way, what's the point? Also, just in case you didn't think there were enough bad mechanics, if you make it to the end, it's luck based if you even win or not. Way to take an almost decent board and just ruin it. Seriously, why bother trying to add strategy with using the right cards at the right time when you're just going to make it meaningless by the end? Either way, Shy Guy's Shuffle City at least stands out by having a unique gimmick.
But at least it's warm around the fire.
Hey, if we're underwater, how could there be a...
Oh boy, we're back to the car, my favorite. Whimsical Waters from 10 doesn't have any terrible gimmicks. What is this, a good Mario Party? No, not at all, but compared to the previous boards, it sure feels like it. There's no bullshit, get the specific number of fuck you moments here. It's just a kind of boring tour under the sea. The Dragon Eel is also a neat gimmick, having a bunch of different chests with different prizes, including 1 jackpot. Once the jackpot is collected, the prize is reset. This isn't the best gimmick by any means, but once again, it sure as hell feels like it compared to what I've been through. Even the loop thing at the end isn't terrible. If you fail going around the first time, you're guaranteed to go through the second time around. Again, I don't like this board, but it has some actually decent design. I still hate cars though.
Boo. Haunted
Trail. You know, I never thought I would be saying Haunted Trail from 10 was one of the best boards that has the car gimmick, but here we are. At first you go through this board expecting the same old car crap, and then you see a Boo and get war flashbacks to Boo's Horror Castle. And when you pass it, wait, it's actually a decent hazard? The Boo attaches to the one person who passed it, and will take 5 mini-stars every time that player rolls. However, there are Boo spaces on the board that will switch the Boo to someone else. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I actually kind of like this gimmick. Once again, it's not like the best thing ever, but compared to all the other gimmicks the car gameplay had to offer, this is easily my favorite. Other than that one thing, this is just your generic car gameplay, which I don't like on a fundamental level. But Haunted Trail impressed me, I'm not gonna lie.
It's dangerous to go alone, take this.
Perilous Palace Path from Island Tour. This board is pretty linear and generic and not very good. It's just a race to the end. There's only one thing that makes this better than the previous ones, and that's because the minigames actually matter. Depending on how you place in each minigame, you get to roll a better dice block. There's even some BS items to use, and while they aren't balanced well at all, I'll take it over those special dice blocks with the car any day. The Bowser Zone also isn't a fun mechanic, but at least it's something that can be avoided by each individual player. There's also the ending segment where you have to roll high enough to defeat a thwomp, and I've always hated these kind of things. The reward for getting to the end first shouldn't be a chance to even happen. So yeah, the board still sucks, but I'd much rather play it over the previous ones.
This is for the losers. Sing it all night long. We're the losers. There's nothing wrong with being losers.
Bowser's Peculiar Peak from Island Tour. It's the same thing as Perilous Palace Path, but this time the person who gets to the end loses. There's also no items or Bowser Zone, which makes the board feel pretty skill-based, even though it's not at all. The minigames mattering also applies here, but the higher you place, the smaller dice block you get to roll. I also kind of like the ending challenge thing on this board. If you roll a 4 or higher, that's when you lose. However, if you don't, you get to stay alive longer, and the dice you earn in the minigame applies to the challenge. So if you keep winning minigames, you have a much better chance at not losing, and could have someone else be the loser. Those nice qualities aren't enough to make it, well, good, since it's still just linear racing BS. But compared to everything prior, it's top tier. DK's Jungle Ruins from 9 is the best use of the car, and all they had to do was replace the mini-stars with bananas. Okay, not really, but it's still the best cardboard. No, that's not really saying much, but still. DK's Jungle Ruins is a giant circle with bananas or rotten bananas on every space. The fact that every space has them already makes it better than the other cardboard, since your rolls and what happens aren't entirely based on the other players. The captain event is definitely the best captain event as well. Again, that's not saying much, but I don't care. Honestly, that's all I really have to say about this board. I just want this to be over. I want to experience the joy of Wario's battle cannon again.
I can show you the world. Shit. Shining, shivering slag mess.
I'm gonna jump.
Kamek's Carpet Ride from Island Tour is the best at being the worst. Or I guess technically it's the worst at being the worst, since being the best at being the worst would be like the worst. But whatever. It's the light at the end of the tunnel, and Kamek's Carpet Ride was NDCube's cream of the crop before they made an actually decent Mario Party game. Anyway, this takes the card gimmick from Shy Guy Shuffle City, and gets rid of the BS ending and the Bowser cards. This is the only board where I can say the linear structure actually works to its benefit. It's all about strategizing when to use your cards, because to win, you need to land on the last space exactly. So you have to use your cards properly and win minigames to get the cards you need. This is the most skill-based board out of all of these, and it's not even close. It's only like 20 spaces though, so it's still not as good as, well, the good Mario Party boards. Congratulations, Kamek's Carpet Ride. You get the honor of being the best of the worst.
Rectangles!
Booze Haunted Bash, more like Booze Haunted Trash. That doesn't really work as well, since it's no longer in the bottom 2 of the list. So yeah, this is my new least favorite traditional Mario Party board. And I'd still much rather play it over all the other board styles, which is kinda sad honestly. Anyway, Booze Haunted Trash is just a giant rectangle. It's already a bland board design, but it's made even worse by being in Mario Party 4, where every board is just metal paths above the scenery. This is the least inspired board design in the entire series. Well, maybe except for Top 100's board. However, if the visuals and design were the only problems, Booze Haunted Trash would not be ranked this low. First off, this rectangle is huge. It takes so long to get around this thing, especially if you don't have any Mega Mushrooms. But then, there's the pink boos. And yes, I know they're called red boos, but like, come on, those are pink. Anyway, there's a pink boo sanctuary thing in the middle of the board, and when someone passes it, all of these pink bridges will disappear, and reappear when someone else passes the sanctuary. All this does is make certain parts of the board inaccessible until the bridges reappear. This includes most of the star locations, the only 2 happening spaces on the entire board, and the sanctuary itself. So every game is going to have prolonged periods of time where nothing happens. This is made even worse by the fact that when the pink boos are gone, passing this spot in the top left corner will force you to ride the ghost train, which may seem like a way to bypass the bridges being gone, but it's not at all. You see this entrance to the middle of the board? It's made completely useless by the ghost train, since passing the sanctuary while on the train doesn't do anything. The train also completely bypasses the star and the happening spaces. The only way to get back to the sanctuary while the bridges are down is to either use a Mega Mushroom to avoid the ghost train and enter through the top, or ride the ghost train to the right side of the board and enter there. Then on top of that, going towards the sanctuary will take you away from Boo. So tell me, would you rather A, go out of your way to the sanctuary just to make the board playable again and not even guarantee getting the star, or 2, just go to Boo and try to steal the only stars that have been collected? There's almost no logical reason to do the former unless you use the Mega Mushroom to pass the Ghost Train. And you may think that you can just avoid the Sanctuary the entire game, but most of the star locations force you to go through the Sanctuary. And going back to the happening spaces, you'd think that because there's only 2 of them and they're so hard to get to, the reward for landing on them would be massive. But nothing happens. You have to be the 3rd person to land on it to get a Big Boo that can steal from every player for triple the price. I barely ever see 1 person land on this, let alone 3. I have legit never seen this in my entire life. I think the only way it would be possible is to play a 50-turn game, and even that's a stretch. You may be wondering with how much I hate this board, why it's ranked above 25 other boards. Well, the simple answer is because I much prefer this style of gameplay over the boring cars and races. Even though Boo's Haunted Trash is terribly designed, at least I felt something while playing, even if it is mostly negative. I'll take that over boring gameplay that's not worth playing at all, any day. But there is one good thing about this board, and that's Boo's sweet wizard costume. Actually, I take it back. Boo's wizard costume is what puts Boo's Haunted Trash over 25 other boards.
Make a wish, honey.
I hate Eternal Star, the last board in the first game. They really didn't end on a high note, which is worsened by the fact that you need to grind 100 stars to even unlock it. The board is a bunch of different chunks of a star connected by these teleporters, which are completely randomized. Okay, they're not actually, there's just 3 different combinations, but it might as well be random. When someone stumbles through the teleporter that takes them to Bowser, that player loses a star, and the teleporters are rerouted. So even if you started to memorize the teleporters, well, too bad, because they're different now. It's also not like it's going to matter that much anyway, because every single happening space on this board will send every player back to start. Why? This is just extremely tedious and makes an already bad board even worse. That's not even mentioning the fact that the star spaces can take one of your stars, which isn't that likely since you have to outroll a Koopa Kid while using an 8, 9, 10 dice block. But it still can happen, which is super frustrating. So yeah, Eternal Star is just a mess filled with stumbling around, trying to figure out where to go, getting sent back to start, losing stars, it all just sucks.
Hey you! Get off of my cloud!
Mario's Rainbow Castle from the first game. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, not another straight line. No! So this board is just a straight line with 2 branching paths that can make the trek slightly longer or shorter. When you get to the end, you either see Toad or Bowser. Toad gives you a star, and Bowser tells you to fuck off and takes 40 coins. The most coins he takes on any of the first game's boards. The branching paths don't really help much, because the one toward the end is like a 2 space difference, and the one in the middle, while a much bigger space difference, is just way too far from the end to matter. This also isn't helped by the fact that this game doesn't have any items, but that would barely matter because all of the happening spaces switch Toad and Bowser. So even if you did have items that set yourself up perfectly, someone else could just land on a happening space and ruin it for you. We'll get to you.
Woshi! It's a double Yoshi explosion!
What do you know, 3 Mario Party 1 boards in a row. Yeah, even though I still really enjoy this first game, I still have to admit that the boards overall aren't really that good compared to the later ones. Except for these, obviously. Anyway, Yoshi's Tropical Island is pretty similar to Mario's Rainbow Castle, except instead of a straight line, there's 2 different islands. One with Toad, and one with Bowser, who only takes 30 coins instead of 40. The happening spaces still switch their places. There are also Thwomp toll booths to cross between the islands, with the prices increasing based on how much the players decide to pay with a cap of 50 coins. Just like with Mario's Rainbow Castle, these toll booths on paper allow the players to strategize, but they are so far away from the Bowser and Toad spots that it mostly comes down to pick an island and hope you get it right. The only real decision is whether you want Boo or Koopa afterwards. I guess there is some strategy to the toll booth prices, and by strategy, I mean just jacking up the price so no one can cross. So yeah, this is just a slightly better Mario's Rainbow Castle.
Am I really gonna defile this grave for money? Of course I am!
Kamek's Tantalizing Tower, the final board in Super. is also not very good. It doesn't really work well with this game's ally and alternate dice block systems. It's a mostly linear board that's only like 25 spaces long, and while there's always a star at the end, it's just dominated by characters that can roll high numbers and allies. If there's any board that shows how broken allies are, it's this one. There's a seemingly interesting gimmick with the fluctuating star price between 5, 10, and 15, and if you have enough coins you could buy 2 stars. There are a couple things wrong with this though. 1. Coins are super plentiful in Super Mario Party, so aside from maybe the beginning of the game, everyone will just be able to afford the stars no matter what. B. There's not enough of a fluctuation in the star price. Normally, stars are worth 10 coins in this game, which is already super cheap, but the fact that there's not that big of a change in the price makes it so you have to spend slightly more coins than normal. If there were up to like 40 coin stars, that would not only make the stars actually negate the too many coins problem, but that would also give a reason to not use the best dice every time and nerf the allies a bit. And there's not enough events that take coins. While the red spaces aren't doubled in this board, there's only 2 of them, and the blue spaces are also doubled as well, so it doesn't mean anything. There's a shop that forces you to buy something, but the items are only 6 coins, and one of them is a custom dice block, so technically it benefits the player more than it hurts the player. There's a thwomp tool that acts just like it did in Yoshi's Tropical Island that blocks off the shortest path, and it does take a lot of coins the longer the game goes on, but that path can just be avoided. Finally, there's 2 spaces that unleash a chain chomp to make you lose not a lot of coins. So yeah, Kamek's Tantalizing Tower has a bunch of mechanics that work fine on paper, but in execution it's just not great. Whomp's Domino Ruins from Super. I'll admit, it's definitely not the worst traditionally styled board, but I still don't really find it that interesting or fun. Just like with Kamek's Tantalizing Tower, this board is heavily dominated by allies and characters who can roll high numbers. It's just a really small circle with minimal branching paths that just come right back together. The thwomps blocking the paths is a good idea, but only 3 coins to pass, really? The boulder that moves you back a couple spaces is pretty annoying, but also just is kind of there. So all this board really is just running around in circles until it's over. This is by far the worst beginner board besides the ones that shall not be named, even compared to DK's Jungle Adventure, the first board in the entire series. Honestly, Whomp's Domino Ruins is just kind of a discount DK's Jungle Adventure, which is pretty sad. So yeah, this is one of the most nothing boards ever. Speaking of nothing boards, Undersea Dream from 5 is just running around in circles the entire time. But instead of 1 circle, there's 2. It's a complete game changer. Even though they don't look anything like circles, yeah, they're just circles.
I f***ing hate circles!
So the only strategy is to roll higher than everyone else, get more mushrooms than everyone else, and read the game's mind to see where the next star will spawn. It's easy. There's a couple of happening spaces that will take you somewhere else, and yeah, that's it.
It's f***ing Mario Kart again!
Mario Party 6 has a really great set of boards. With the unique day and night cycle, each board in the game manages to be very cool and stand out from the rest. Then they decided to remake Mario's Rainbow Castle. Seriously, talk about a total buzzkill. There's only one thing that makes this better than Mario's Rainbow Castle, and that's because this game has items, so it becomes possible to strategize when you get to the end. Also, Toad is replaced with Donkey Kong, so that's another dub. Yeah, so even though it is possible to strategize when you arrive at the end with items, particularly the Sluggish Room, there are also points where, even if you play it out perfectly, someone else can just use their Sluggish Room to switch DK and Bowser and screw you over. A lot of this board doesn't feel like who can strategize the best, but rather who can use their Sluggish Room last. It's also not like the Sluggish Room is the only item either, because it's not, or it's the only one that actually fixes this board's problem. Sure, mushrooms and kleptos can help, but they don't change the fact that unless everyone is a task bot, someone will see Bowser no matter what. What makes it even worse is that Bowser takes a star, or coins if you don't have any. It's already bad enough losing coins, but losing a star because you couldn't see into the future is just absurd. The only thing that would make Castaway Bay better is to play in a Castaway Bay resort.
Listen everybody, let's make a delicious cake.
Peach's Birthday Cake from 1 is yet another linear board. I like the idea of the gimmick that this board is going for. That being that every happening space will let you spend 30 coins to plant a piranha plant that will take a star from whoever lands on it, and then disappear. It's kinda like Monopoly with buying properties and trying to own as much of the board as you can, while trying to make as much money as possible to do so. Except this board doesn't have any different value properties, different districts, houses, hotels, or trading by gaslighting your friends into thinking you're giving them a good deal when you're really not. So it's nothing like Monopoly at all. Got it. That's not even mentioning the fact that the piranha plants only take stars, which you can only get one time every go around, assuming you can afford it at the time. So even though the idea of the piranha plants is really cool, there's usually not that many stars going around. So there's many points where the plants just aren't doing anything. I also didn't even mention the worst part of this board. There's a Goomba with 4 different seeds. 3 of them take you to the star, and the other one takes you to Bowser. Also, you have to pay 10 coins, or all of your coins if you don't have any to do this. But like, why? It's already bad enough that there's a chance to even get the star. Now there's a 10 coin fee on top of that. So essentially, the stars are 30 coins. Making the main gimmick of the board even more worthless, as it takes a while for everyone to get stars to steal, as well as the coins to even be able to steal. I will say that this is probably the only board where a 50 turn game is way more fun than a 20 turn game. Honestly, if this was a board where everyone started with 5 stars, it would be really fun. Oh, and if it had items. That too. So yeah, Peach's Birthday Cake was really close to being a fun board. It just has a few flaws that keep it from being good.
When you put your money in, it mysteriously disappears.
Mystery Land from 2 is a board separated into 4 islands. Get ready to hear that a bunch later. The main way to cross between these islands is by landing on happening spaces to get teleported to the next island. There are other ways to cross, however. On the top left and bottom right islands, you can pay some alien bombs 10 coins to travel between the two. On the top right and bottom left islands, there's skeleton key doors that bring you to the middle and choose between the bottom right and the top left islands. That's it. There's just not enough reliable ways to get from island to island. Even if you do get to one where you need to go, one happening space is all it takes to mess it up. That's also not helped by being able to only hold one item in this game. So you have to pretty much decide whether you want to buy mushrooms and try to avoid the happening spaces, or skeleton keys to be able to escape one of the islands. Either choice you make will more than likely screw you over. The only really reliable source of travel is the UFO, and that can only get you so far. So yeah, I don't like this board, but if there were a few changes, it could be really fun.
May whoever did this die 1,000 deaths. May his stinking, maggot-covered corpse rot in the fiery depths of hell.
After reevaluating some of my placements for this list, there's one that I really wanted to change, especially since so many people seem to really like it. But after playing it some more, I hate to say it, but I still don't really like Bowser Land. The main reason comes down to the Bowser Parade. Every 5 turns, the Bowser Parade comes around and goes down the path set by the players by spending 5 coins at these stations. If you get hit by the parade, you go back to start and lose 2 coins for every space you travel back. This seems like it provides a really great strategy, as you need to be aware of when the parade starts and plan your route accordingly. I have 2 issues with this. The first one is that there aren't enough safe spots close enough to the star locations. Most of the star locations are on the same paths as the parade. You could choose to go away from the star to avoid the parade, but that will put you way off course, and usually the next parade is already starting by the time you get back. This is amplified with my second problem. While choosing a different path for the parade can really help, everyone can do it, especially with how cheap it is. A lot of time, it comes down to who can change the route right before the parade starts and screw everyone else over. You also don't have much control over who is able to get to the route changing station last, so it feels like it's just random. The Bowser Parade is a great idea, but I just don't think it's executed well. That's not even the only thing I don't like about this board. The Circle of Death is really annoying. There's 3 happening spaces in a row that will send you into the Circle of Death. Once inside, you go around in circles until you land on one of the happening spaces inside. There are way more happening spaces than any other space in that circle, so the chances of you being stuck in there forever are very slim. However, once you escape, you get set on the path that goes right back to the entrance. And you can't avoid going past the entrance unless you land on this pipe happening space or you happen to have a warp block, which I doubt you ever try to get a warp block in Mario Party 2. I mean, unless you get it from this item shop that forces you to buy a random item for more than it's worth. This is another thing on this board I don't like, especially in this game where you can only hold one item. There is one aspect of Bowser Land I like. That is the reverse banks. Instead of the normal bank where passing the space makes you deposit 5 coins and landing on it gives you all of the deposited money, in Bowser Land, if you pass the bank, you take out a 5 coin loan, and if you land on it, you have to pay back the entire debt. These can get really dangerous and makes you always want to have a mushroom on hand to avoid them at all costs. Also, it's very rare, but if you land on the bank with 0 coins and you have stars, you lose one of your stars. So not only do you need to carefully maneuver around the banks, but you also need to make sure that you don't get caught without any coins or you'll pay big time. Overall, I wish I liked this board more, but I just don't like the way it's executed.
Let's be gnarly, dude.
Bowser's Gnarly Party from 4. This must be the greatest board of all time. It's gnarly! No. The biggest issue with this board is the crumbling bridges. Once 3 players cross them, they crumble and reappear on the other path. But instead of just being an alternate route or something, both of them take you off the main path and send you in a loop which you have to go around 3 times to finally make it out. The first one at least has an item shop so you can at least buy a warp pipe to get out, and the second one has a mini gate to escape, but these are still really annoying. Speaking of mini gates, all of the board events, including every happening space and most of the star locations, are locked behind mini gates, which is really annoying since you have to get lucky with not only your positioning, but also the roll with the mini mushroom to even make it. And speaking of mini, at the beginning of a random turn, Bowser will force everyone to be mini for that turn, which, unless someone was going to use one anyway, is just meaningless and makes the board more annoying. It also locks you out of using any items for that turn, so yeah, it's just annoying. The one thing I like about this board is Bowser being in a random spot. If you pass him, you lose half your coins, but if you pass him while mini, you get sent to Bowser's start. And if you pass him while mega, you enter a Bowser minigame to see if you lose half of your coins or make Bowser disappear for a few turns. This is a really neat gimmick, and while it's not enough to save Bowser's Gnarly Party, I still have some fun with it.
Surfing on this sand here, surfing in a circle.
Pyramid Park from 7 has a gimmick that we'll see a couple more times where everyone starts with 5 stars and the goal is to steal them from each other since there aren't any new stars to be collected. A lot of people seem to really hate this gimmick, but I think it's a pretty fun twist on the normal boards. Except for Pyramid Park, I don't think this version is executed very well. The board is separated into 2 halves. The left side has 1 red chain jump who will roll 3 dice blocks for 10 coins, and the right side has 3 regular chain jumps who will roll 1 dice block for 10 coins and 2 dice blocks for 20 coins. Anyone who gets hit by the chain jumps gets one of their stars stolen. My biggest issue is that the chain jumps are way too close together. Even the red one can easily make it to the right side of the board, as the bridge is right next to it. This once again makes it feel less like strategy and more like who can get the last laugh. I guess if you position yourself properly you can avoid getting hit, but there also aren't many places to hide. In fact, there's only one safe spot that you can pay a womp to enter, but it's not very big at all. There's also a board exclusive item, the bone, which will block 1 chain jump from stealing from you. But from what I've played, these don't show up often enough to really matter much. So yeah, this board isn't terrible, I just don't think it works the best.
And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die.
Bowser's Magma Mountain from 1 is just a linear board in disguise. The only difference between this and a normal linear board is the shortcuts throughout the board. In order to use one, you have to pay 10 coins, and then have a coin flip to decide whether you can take it or not. This isn't very good design, but I don't know why, I find it hilarious. It should definitely just be 10 coins to pass, but the fact that there's a coin flip afterwards just makes it really funny. The star also isn't stationary, so the shortcuts are only helpful sometimes. But that means you can just flex on everybody by spending the 10 coins, losing the coin flip, and still going the correct way. Or you can just win the coin flip and look like an idiot, which just makes the board way more fun than it has any right to be. That's not even mentioning the coin flip towards the end that decides whether you see Boo or Bowser, and the fact that Bowser can take a star on this board, which is another coin flip for whether he takes coins or a star. The cherry on top is the fact that every happening space turns every blue space into a red space for a few turns, causing everyone to suffer, and I can't help but laugh. Where in Mario Party 9 and 10, I just wanted the game to be over with as fast as possible. In Bowser's Magma Mountain, I have way too much dumb fun, and I don't want it to end. Even though this board is not well designed at all, it is one of the best boards to take way too seriously for literally no reason at all, and I love it for that. Notice how I said one of.
This is what I'm talking about. It's like a Wario taking Remember the Alamo.
What, you actually thought I was gonna rank Wario's Battle Canyon lower? Please, it's motherfucking Wario's Battle Canyon. It's similar to Mystery Land where there's 4 different islands. But unlike Mystery Land, crossing the top part of the islands will force you to the next island, and then you land on a random spot on the island. This obviously isn't good design at all, but I don't care in the slightest. This is just hilarious. This board is pretty much 100% luck based, and I just find that funny. Like, how could the board where you have to pay to go see Bowser be anything else? That's right, seeing Bowser and losing coins is a privilege you have to pay for. And if that isn't enough, the happening spaces switch the direction of the cannons that launch you. Everything in this board works against the player, and I love it for that. And I know some of you may be saying something along the lines of, oh, so when Mario Party 9 does it, you hate it, and when Wario's Battle Cannon does it, you think it's funny? Yeah, it's motherfucking Wario's Battle Cannon. But in all seriousness, when I was playing through Mario Party 9, 10, and 3DS games, I could genuinely feel myself falling asleep, and I constantly had the urge to just turn off the console and never play them again. With Wario's Battle Cannon, on the other hand, I felt anything but that. I was 100% invested in the game, even though it doesn't matter in the slightest on this board. This is not a good board, but I still have tons of fun while playing it. And that's what matters most to me. I'm still ranking every board I genuinely enjoy above it, so you don't need to worry about that. But Wario's Battle Cannon is still my beloved.
You are a toy!
Out of all the boards I think are good, Toy Dream from 5 is the one that stands out the least. It is a very simplistic starting board, especially with 5's main gimmick of the capsules replacing all the events aside from the happening spaces. The only real notable parts of the board are the train and these toy soldiers that will knock down these blocks if you land on them. Other than that, Toy Dream just kind of exists. It's definitely not bad, but it's not as interesting as a lot of the other boards.
Who's up for a trip to the library tomorrow? Notice I no longer say library or tamari.
Kamek's Library from DS is a board where the main gimmick on paper is really annoying. That being, having 3 magic jars. One with coins, one with a star, and one that sends you back to start. And it's impossible to tell which is which. Once the star is collected, the jars reset. In practice, I actually like this gimmick. It really helps that this board is really small, and all of the gold pipes will always take you to the correct magic jar. The only thing I find annoying is that this board is separated into 2 halves, and the only way to cross is by landing on specific happening spaces. But at least you get to draw the screen. These happening spaces that replace all of your items with slow dice blocks and teleport you is pretty annoying, but it's not enough to make me dislike this board. Overall, Kamek's Library is a fun board, but some annoying elements hold it back from being a great one. Neon Heights from 7 has the exact same main gimmick as Kamek's Library. The only real difference is that, well, this is 7 instead of DS, obviously. But really, Neon Heights isn't separated into 2 islands. And the happening events are a little different, including one that reshuffles the chests. Oh yeah, they're chests instead of magic jars. These coin events that don't have any happening spaces, especially the shooting one at the beginning of the board, are really annoying, since they are the exact same thing every time, and they are really easy to get to. I guess one of them is baseball, so I guess I can let it slide. The only thing that keeps this board fairly low is that it's really big, and there aren't many good travel options, so the random chests can get frustrating. I still like this board though. So yeah, that's it.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine.
King Boo's Haunted Hideaway from 8 has such a cool idea. The board is completely randomized every time a star is collected, and the players have to reveal the map and try to get to the star. This board is at its peak when the players are trying to figure out the correct path and use items to rush there, especially using the spring when someone is on the correct path. However, that only happens when someone doesn't just happen to find the star on the first try. Since there's usually only just 1 or 2 wrong paths, that ends up happening quite a bit. So even though this is the coolest idea a Mario Party board has ever had, it does end up being quite luck-based. So this is the highest I can rank it.
Man, I spent hours of my life stomping Koopas.
Okay, I have no idea what I was thinking when I said Koopa Seaside Soiree was the best board in Mario Party 4. Don't get me wrong, I still like the board, but I gave it way too much credit initially. The thing I like most about this board is how big it is, and how there are a bunch of happening spaces that will take you to different parts of the board. So on the surface, it's really easy to get around. But then there's the monkeys. I have no idea how I didn't find them really annoying initially. So basically, these monkeys are at 2 different junctions, and they put down a banana peel, and whichever way you slip is the way you go. If this was a normal junction, or even if you could just bypass the 50-50 chance with the Mega Mushroom, I could justify my original placement. It's even more annoying because they literally programmed this feature in, and they gave it to the Bowser suit, which is incredibly rare in this game. On the other hand, I do still like the cabana in the middle. Passing these Koopa phases on the board will have you donate 5 coins to the cabana. I spelled it differently both times. Nice. And landing on any of these happening spaces will have the cabana destroyed and make you pay for the damages. This can be easily avoided with the Mega Mushroom, but you risk passing the star or the item shop. If only it would pass the monkeys too. Anyway, I still do like this board, but its placement has fallen because of the really annoying monkeys. Western Landform 2 is another good board that is held back a bit by one aspect. This board is way too big. It's almost like 50 spaces to get around the entire thing once, and that's counting the fastest route. Well, aside from taking the train, which is parked at one of the 3 stations, it really only helps one person. Also, if you pay to ride it, it can either go forward or backward, so it's not always worth it to take the train. Happening spaces also make the train move to the next station as well, and if you get run over by it, you have to go back to start, which is really annoying. There's also only one item shop in the middle of the board, so you're not really gonna have items to help with the trick either. So yeah, it's really big, but one thing I really like about this board is how both of the boos are on the train tracks, so going for them is a risk. Well, I guess except when the train isn't nearby, but still. Speaking of which, why would anyone ever take this path? Like, do you want Boo or 2 Bowser spaces? Tough decision, I know. I know it's used for the skeleton key door, but why would you skip out on Boo for that? That doesn't affect my placement at all. I just thought it was funny. Anyway, Western Land is a good board that could have been better if it was a bit smaller.
It's called a road, it's called a rainbow road.
Rainbow Dreamform 5 is separated into 4 islands like Mystery Land and Wario's Battle Canyon, but it's actually decent this time. The biggest reason is because you can choose whether you want to go to the next island or stay at the junctions, and going to the next island costs 5 coins. There's also a happening space on each island that will take you to the next one for free, but since there's not really a way to land on a specific space in this game, it doesn't end up mattering much. Speaking of being in Mario Party 5, that's the biggest problem with its boards. With the main gimmick of almost every event being tied to an item, it just leaves the boards themselves really barren. Don't get me wrong, none of them are bad besides Undersea Dream, they're just alright. Yeah, Future Dream from 5 is literally just Rainbow Dream, but there's 3 islands instead of 4, the warps go both ways instead of just one, and the warps are free. These changes do end up making Future Dream better than Rainbow Dream, but it's still just really odd how both boards are in the same game, and yet are so similar. Even some of the happening spaces do the exact same thing. The only difference is one uses a rocket and the other uses rainbow bridges. That's it.
Chocolate! Chocolate! Chocolate!
Much like how Rainbow Dream was basically just a decent version of Mystery Land and Wario's Battle Canyon, Sweet Dream from 5 is basically just a decent version of Bowser's Gnarly Party. The bridges here crumble only after one player passes them, so there's none of that having to go around a loop 3 times just because you were in the wrong spot at the wrong time. The board is also way smaller, which normally I don't like very much, but with this gimmick, I think it works well so no one will loop infinitely. Once again, the biggest problem isn't really the board itself, it's just the game that it's in.
Apple pen, pineapple pen. Pineapple, apple pen.
Mega Fruit Paradise is the first good board from Super. It's also the only board that Spellcheck really hates. Anyway, Mega Fruit Paradise is split into 4 different islands, even though it's more like 2 since bridges connect 2 of them on each half together. One's a sand bridge that will crumble permanently after enough people cross it, and the other has happening spaces that will have a blooper launch you back to start. Landing on specific happening spaces to cross isn't that bad either, since custom dice blocks are really easy to get in this game. And if you warp when you don't want to, you can try roll 0 to get back. Being split into islands also prevents allies from being too overpowered, since it's not always about who can roll the highest, it's about planning your route accordingly. I also really like how the only item shop that sells golden pipes will be destroyed after enough people use it, preventing camping for golden pipes for too long. Overall, yeah, it's just a good board. Not much else to say.
I'm surfing in a circle, still surfing in a circle.
Okay, why does Mario Party 8 get so much hate? Like, yeah, some of the minigames are terrible, like, really terrible, but the boards are really good. Bowser's Warped Orbit goes back to the Pyramid Park gimmick of everyone starting with 5 stars, and the goal being to steal them from the other players. Instead of chain jumps to steal stars, Bowser's Warped Orbit has 2 exclusive items, the Bullet Candy and the Bowser Candy. The Bullet Candy lets you roll 3 dice blocks and steal 1 star from every player you pass, and the Bowser Candy lets you roll 2 dice blocks and steals 2 stars from every player you pass. Being able to use them whenever you want adds a lot of strategy since you have to decide what to use at the right time. Do you use a Bullet Candy to try to get as far away as possible while not stealing as many stars? Or do you use a Bowser Candy to steal more stars but risk getting them stolen right back? The Bullet and Bowser Candies aren't even the only viable options. Twice and thrice candies help you escape a bad situation, and Flogos are really helpful since many of the happening spaces and the lucky space act as an escape option. The lucky space takes you to an alternate path with a bunch of free candy. With the happening spaces, there's a tube that'll take you to the opposite side of the board and give you coins. There's one that will make Bowser flip the direction that everyone moves, and one will put everyone on the same space. I think the only problem I have with this board is that it gets really repetitive after a while. Other than that, I really like it. I also like how the devs just had no idea what to do with the DK and Bowser spaces. So they had DK give 1 star and Bowser take 1 star. It ends up not mattering at all because all it does is bring the total number of stars from 20 to 21 and then back to 20.
Oh, east? I thought you said west.
Goomba's Booty Boardwalk from 8 is just a straight line. But wait, I swear it's actually good. Despite being a linear board, all of which I have not liked so far, this one has a good bit of strategy that I really enjoy. It's all about coin management, even though the star is free. There are dolphins that you can pay around 10 to 20 coins to skip a good chunk of the board. However, every item shop is placed behind the dolphins, so you may want to take a slower path to get a helpful item. Items are especially helpful because there's a happening space right at the end that will send you all the way back to start. So you can either rush ahead with the dolphins and hope you don't land on it, or take the slower path and guarantee you don't land on it. Even beyond the go back to start space, you can buy a Springo to get 2 stars back to back if everyone was behind you, or you can use a Slow Go to get to the lucky space that will earn you extra coins and another star. Even though Goomba's Booty Boardwalk is just a straight line, there's a good bit of strategy to make me like it quite a bit.
The universe has brought us the Dragon Warrior!
Pagoda Peak from 7 is the same idea as Goomba's Booty Boardwalk. It's a straight line with ways to skip forward, and there's a space at the end that will send you back to start. One difference is that instead of paying dolphins, there's a board-specific item, the cannon, that will shoot you further up the mountain. The further up the mountain you are, the less the effect the cannon has. The shops are pretty close to the bottom, so the cannons are very likely to pass them up, which is something you have to think about. However, the main reason this is ranked above Goomba's Booty Boardwalk is the star price. The price of the star can be 10, 20, 30, or 40 coins. It's not like Kamek's Tantalizing Tower where the star is pretty much affordable no matter what. The difference in coins spent between the stars is big, so it just gives an extra reason to not rush through the board, while making coins matter even more. Getting to the end at the wrong time is also not insanely punishing like Castaway Bay or Mario's Rainbow Castle. My only problem with this and Goomba's Booty Boardwalk is that they do get a little repetitive, but I still really like them.
Well, this sucks.
Snowflake Lake from 6 is the third and final star stealing board. Or I guess it's the first one, but I like it the most, so it's the final one in this ranking. Anyway, Snowflake Lake has the best layout of all the star stealing boards, which is why I like it the most. It's a circle with 4 chain jumps at the 4 corners. Yes, I know circles don't have corners. Shut up. Also, it's not even really a circle, it's more of a square, but whatever. There's also an inner circle. That's actually a circle. That is completely safe from the chain jumps, but you also won't be able to steal any stars while you're in there. The board has a great strategy with needing to plan out when you want to hide and when you want to attack. You also can't stay in the safe spots forever, so you need to keep that in mind. Also at nighttime, all of the entrances to the middle are completely blocked off except for the one with the Womp Toll. I really like this forced conflict to ensure that the game doesn't get too boring, which is amplified by the fact that the chain jumps are way more dangerous at night. Instead of costing 20 coins for 1 dice block during the daytime, they cost 10, 20, or 30 coins for 1, 2, or 3 dice blocks respectively. If you plan your route accordingly, you can make it to the middle right before nighttime to avoid all of the conflict if you don't feel confident about surviving. It still does get a little repetitive, so I don't like it as much as the more traditional boards, or some of the gimmicks that I thought were executed really well, but I still really like Snowflake Lake. You know, for being the first board in the entire series, DK's Jungle Adventure is actually really good, especially compared to all the other First Games boards, as much as I hate to say it. Like I said in the Womp's Dominant Ruins segment, this board is just a way better version of it, and that's hilarious. The Womps cost 10 coins, and there's more of them, making them a meaningful hazard. The boulders send you back to start instead of just sending you back like 5 spaces, and there's some risk reward with paying one of the Womps to avoid the boulders. Aside from those 2 hazards, this board is pretty basic, but it's still really good, especially considering it's in the first game. Also, what's up with these doors that require you to have 20 coins, not spend 20 coins to pass? And why did they never appear again?
Luigi, you're so freaking sexy!
Luigi's Engine Room is my pick for the best board in the first game. It's not really a high bar to clear, but still. The main gimmick with this board is these red and blue gates that will switch being open and closed at the beginning of every turn. There are also these robots that you can pay 20 coins to switch the gates. There's only 2 of them, but they are placed well enough to where they are super reliable for helping you to get where you need to go or screwing someone else over. There are also lots of pathways that lead back to the start quickly, so if you end up going down the wrong path, it doesn't take that long to get going back on track. That does lead into my only gripe with this board. Boo is way too easy to get to. He's placed right at the exit pipe that every path leads to, so everyone uses him constantly. Also, this board would rank much higher if you were able to use items in this game, but it's not that big of a deal that it doesn't have any. However, the real reason this board is as good as it is because Bowser gives you 1 coin, but charges 20 coins for it. That's hilarious.
What's this icky paint-like goop? It's moving!
Toad's Midway Madness from 4 is a great board. It's really big, especially for a starting board, and the roller coaster is a really great way to travel from one side to the other by spending 5 coins or landing on a happening space. However, these teacup things are the main talking point when this board comes up. The arrow points which way you go, and then switches once someone passes it. There's one at the beginning that will send you in a loop, and a lot of people really hate that. I even had someone say that they spend entire games stuck in that loop. But, you know, instead of reevaluating my placement of Toad's Midway Madness, I just laughed. I think Mario Party boards need to have some luck, and that balance is really hard to get right. Some of those BS moments of someone getting screwed over need to happen, otherwise it's just not as interesting. There's also a few mushroom spaces and one spring to help you get out, so it's not even the worst thing ever. Overall, this was a great start for Mario Party 4.
Mining away!
King Bob-omb's Powder Cake Mines is my pick for the best board in Super, and it wasn't even close. The size is great for this game. There's a big risk versus reward aspect with the middle section, allies don't automatically make you win, it's so good. My favorite aspect is definitely King Bob-omb in the middle. There's a counter that starts at 5, and every happening space in the middle will count down by 1. When it reaches 0, King Bob-omb will explode, making everyone in that square lose half of their coins. Why couldn't any other board from Super have something like this? The middle is the fastest way to get around, and being there is an active risk. You can also choose to stay in the middle and try to get more allies or more happening spaces for a bonus star. There's also this spot where you have to mine for coins. But if your pickaxe breaks, you don't get any of the ones you found, which doesn't really make any sense, but it provides another good bit of risk versus reward. Some of Super Mario Party's not so great aspects come up, however, like this bomb that will only sometimes subtract 1 from your roll. Pro tip, if you're going to make a hazard, make it actually do something. There's also a conveyor belt that either takes you the safe way or the way to the bomb, but there's no reason to avoid the bomb because it doesn't mean anything. If this bomb was way more punishing, this board could be ranked even higher, but it's still really good.
Who is that? He's just this old crazy guy that gets pissed off because I'm in his garden all the time.
Wiggler's Garden is a really good starting board for Mario Party DS. It is pretty small, but this is Mario Party DS, all of the boards are small. But yeah, this board shows off some of DS's best aspects really well, like the item system, coin events, a little bit of risk reward, it's all just really good. Like literally all I have to say about this board is that it's good. Moving on. That means move on to the next one.
Oh, banana.
DK's Treetop Temple from 8 is a fairly simple starting board. Simple doesn't mean bad in the slightest. And that's the case with this board. The main thing I like about this board is the lucky space. It is placed on a path filled with happening spaces that will send you the opposite way, so getting close enough to be able to use a slow-go candy can be hard to do. The barrels that will send you towards the top of the board for 5 coins are also a fun bit of risk versus reward, because they don't always send you to the exact same spot. So you have to take into account the cannon shooting you to the wrong spot. Other than those 2 things, it's just a standard board. And there's nothing wrong with that.
How are you? I am under the water.
Deep Blooper Sea is my least favorite board from 3. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, Mario Party 3 has my favorite set of boards on average. The only thing that makes this one worse than the others from this game is that it just doesn't have as much going for it. There's the shark that has 4 buttons, after you choose what path you want to go through. 3 of them send you the way you picked, and the other one sends you the opposite way. There are some fun instances of predicting to choose the wrong button, so countering it by going the wrong way or something like that. It doesn't really go beyond that though. Those 2 paths are filled with happening spaces that will have a blooper put you on the other one, which again can have some fun moments with trying to outsmart the game by going the wrong way or using a mushroom. I also really like the boo placement here. After a little bit on the top path, you can go up to leave the blooper zone, but if you keep going and risk getting switched, your reward is getting to see Boo. The last notable thing is this, whatever this thing is, with a bunch of happening spaces in front of it, which will have it point in a direction and suck you up and launch you in that direction. However, this can be avoided by mashing the A button and escaping. So, it's a great way to get around while not forcing you if you don't get lucky. Man, why do these action times never appear again? So yeah, this is just another great board.
I hope she made lots of spaghetti.
Grand Canal from 7 is based in Italy. That's all I really need to say, but I'm going to keep going just because I can. They really nailed the feel with the music, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and the canals that act as coin events. I mean, I've never been to Italy, so they probably nailed it. If Italy doesn't have the Grand Canal or the Spider-Man pizza theme playing constantly, I'm gonna be pissed. I really like the shuffle minigame thing that can win you a star or make you lose one. So yeah, all of it comes together nicely to make a great starting board.
To the wild! The wild? Whoa!
Shy Guy's Jungle Jam from 4 is one I often forget about. I don't really know why. It's a really good board. Maybe it has something to do with 4's metal paths above the scenery aesthetic, so it doesn't really stand out to me that much visually. Gameplay wise, it's really solid, being split into 2 different halves. The 2 bridges connecting them have 3 happening spaces right after, which all have a chance to cause a flood for a few turns, making the bridges inaccessible. This adds a great deal of strategy when trying to block everyone off while making sure you get to where you need to go. You are also able to cross by paying the Shy Guy or this bird dude, so you always need a backup plan if the flood occurs. One little complaint I do have is I wish the flood was more consistent. You see, when you land on the happening spaces, you get to choose a fun wish or a sad wish. You may think that you just choose a fun wish if you don't want the flood, and a sad wish when you want the flood. Easy, right? But it's not guaranteed. Sure, you can give it a better or worse chance to happen, but it's still just a chance. But hey, at least Boo is behind a minigame, which I've always liked because Boo shouldn't be easy to get to. You should have to earn your visit to Boo and make it worthwhile. So yeah, once again, this is just another great board.
Why couldn't the 11-year-old get into the pirate movie? Why? It was rated R.
Pirate Land from 2 is another great one. Wow, who would have guessed that a board ranked higher would still be great? On the surface, Pirate Land is a very simple board. It has the same idea as Bowser's Magma Mountain, being a linear board with shortcuts to different points. The shortcuts range from skeleton key doors to thwomp tools. That's it, there's none of that coin flip stuff. I especially like the skeleton key door at the beginning that will take you to Boo and most likely skip the star. Boo's in another great spot because you either have to use the door or go around the entire board. So sometimes you have to decide whether you want to try and go for the star or go for Boo. I really like that kind of risk versus reward, as I've said before and will continue to say many times. These bridges with cannonballs that will send you back to start also provide a nice twist in adding some luck to a board, which I really appreciate. One thing rubs me the wrong way though. What's the deal with the shark? And why is it a blue space that takes 5 coins and forces you to a different spot and then gives 3 coins back? Seriously, why not just have a happening space? I don't understand. Please tell me. What else is there? Oh yeah, the pirate costumes are really cool. Doesn't really affect the ranking at all, but they're still cool.
You're gonna turn into a Goomba!
Goomba's Greedy Gauntlet from 4 is the only casino-themed board. The only casino-themed board. The main gimmick here is that there are 4 quadrants, and this roulette in the middle will decide which one you go to. However, you can bribe the Goomba running it with 5, 10, or 20 coins to rig it in your favor. The 10 and 20 coin options usually take you to the star, so as long as you have enough coins, you should be good. The other main gimmick is the Goombas that will roll a dice block. If you roll higher, you get to pass, and if you roll lower, you get sent back to start. If you want to guarantee going past, you can use a Mega Mushroom to bypass the dice roll. There is also a minigate in the red section, the worst one, to make it easier to escape. The warp pipe is also incredibly helpful for getting out if you can't lose the dice roll. Mario Party 4 has a really odd set of items, but I think Goomba's Greedy Gauntlet uses them the best. So yeah, I think all of these luck-based aspects work really well together, and still feel fair, even if you get unlucky. Also, it's a casino-themed board. It kind of has to be luck-based.
You shouldn't do drugs. If you do them, you're bad. Because drugs are bad, okay?
DK Stone Statue from DS has a gimmick that works really well. That being that the star is always in the same spot. And if you want it, it's yours, my friend, as long as you have enough rubies. You can buy as many stars as you want, as long as you have enough coins. Coins matter a lot here, since you'll obviously want to buy as many stars as possible, even though it can get really out of hand. And if you have enough coins, you can do this. There are also barrels that will make you lose 10 coins if you get hit. so it's a big risk versus reward thing where you have to decide when the right time to buy the stars is. Do you skip out on the star in hopes of getting more coins the second time around? Do you try getting the stars by as much as possible and buy stars every time? It's up to you, and I love that. The item shop also provides some risk reward, as you can buy items to avoid the barrels or hexes. Or you could use all the money to possibly get another star. DK's stone statue is just a big game of risk versus reward, and it's amazing.
Looks are deceiving when Koopas are involved.
Bowser's Enchanted Inferno from 7. Oh wait, no, sorry. Bowser's Enchanted Inferno, with an exclamation mark, from 7, is a prime example of how a board split into 4 islands should work. Every island can be entered from any side, so you don't need to go around every island to get to the last one, like in something like Rainbow Dream. There's also a huge risk versus reward factor with the Bowser times, which were never really interesting enough for me to mention before this point. Anyway, when Bowser time arrives, Bowser will sink the island that has the star, causing everyone on that island to lose half of their coins, as well as getting rid of the island for the next few turns. Not only do you have to rework your strategy based on which island sinks, but you can also risk trying to go for the star right before it sinks, which also has the added risk of the star reappearing on the same island, causing you to sink anyway. The coin events rounded out to make a great board. Also, I could never win this sumo mashing event, but that's probably just because I suck at mashing. Train. Shy Guy's Perplex Express from 8 is easily my favorite linear board. Take a wild guess why. I'll wait. Please, I put money on your answer. It's because there's a great risk versus reward factor. Surprisingly, it comes from the DK and Bowser spaces, which, just like the Bowser types in 7, were never interesting enough for me to mention, aside from when they were flat out worthless. I also have never seen the Bowser space in Goomba's Booty Boardwalk, but that's beside the point. Normally, you go to the front of the train and buy a star for 20 coins. When DK appears, he'll be at the front of the train and give out a star for free. And when Bowser appears, he'll be at the front of the train and take a star. The train will revert back to normal afterwards. Because of the normal train, Bowser will not constantly be stealing like in Castaway Bay or Mario's Rainbow Castle. That not only makes the board way less frustrating, it also gives Bowser way bigger impact since he doesn't appear that often. Landing on a DK space while Bowser is active will also replace Bowser with DK, and vice versa. So if someone is about to collect the free star, someone else could use a Slogo to land on a Bowser space. There are also certain happening spaces that will move the car closer to the front to the back, moving everyone inside and on top of the car. Oh yeah, after you collect the star, you go on top of the train and head to the back of the train. This, along with the DK and Bowser spaces, give a ton of value to items, as well as strategizing a good time to get to the front of the train. Do you want to try to arrive slowly in hopes of getting a free star? Do you go as quickly as possible to avoid Bowser and the cars moving? It's up to you, and it's great. On top of all that, trains are just cool. Well, not waiting for them to cross, but being on a train is cool.
My boy, and off their dice, landing and the more shoots, pair of dice.
Fair Squirrel from 6 has the same idea as DK's stone statue, with a few changes that make it even better. For one, you are limited to 5 stars each time you visit the star spot, which helps the game from getting way out of hand. The star is also placed in the middle of a circle, and to go around it the fastest way costs more coins. The outside section of the board has many events to earn or lose coins. In addition, the star will always cost 20 coins during the day, and at night, a dice block is rolled to see if it costs 5, 10, 30, or 40 coins. So not only do you have to arrive at a time when you have enough coins, you also need to plan if you want to buy the normal stars or take the risk at night. There's also an event at the bottom right that lets you bet one of your stars in a shuffle minigame. During the day, it's really easy and you get 2 stars in return, but at night, it's way harder and you get 3 stars in return. The slot machine thing is also higher risk and higher reward at nighttime, and I just love that theme. It not only makes a unique gimmick, but it also provides a ton of different options and ways to play the board. It's awesome.
Summer is almost upon us, which for many people is the time to relax and unwind in a tropical climate. But why would you do that when you could come to the Netherlands?
Windmillville from 7 has such an amazing gimmick. Instead of buying stars, you invest into windmills that are worth 1 to 3 stars, and the majority owner gets the stars. The windmills also cap out 100 coins. This gimmick makes coins matter so much more than they normally do. Not only do you have to win enough minigames to have plenty of coins, but you also need to spend those coins properly to make the most out of them. You can put all your focus into one windmill so that no one else can take it, or you can focus on a bunch of different windmills and risk them being easily taken from you. The The number of coins you invest matters a ton, since you have to take into account who's close by, how many coins everyone else has, who's been winning the most minigames, etc. There's just one little thing that I don't like that much. You can't choose which way you go. Every junction is an alternating flower bridge thing. Now, it's not a huge deal since what matters is how effectively you use your coins. But not being able to choose which way you go does take out one big part of the strategy. I still love this board, and without this one thing, Windmillville would easily be ranked in the top 5, no doubt. If anything, this just shows how amazing the main gimmick is if this one flaw still doesn't hurt it that much.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Donut's Music Room from DS has a really simple yet effective gimmick. The star starts at 5 coins, then it goes to 10, 15, 20, and 30, and then goes back to 5. What I like about it is that the star location moves around every time just like it usually does, but with the price changing, it adds another layer of strategy. You could skip out on an expensive star to try to get a cheap one, but that cheap one could appear on the opposite side of the board. Since the item shop in DS lets you buy multiple items, there is also more value given to the coins and how you spend them. The theme of the music room is also really cool, and ties into the happening spaces as well as the star price, since every price is represented with a different note. All of this paired together makes for a really great board.
This is it, dudes. After 4 long years of trying, I might finally get the high score on Stan's creepy old pinball machine.
With all of the other changes I've made to this list, all of them took me some time to think about if I still agreed with the placements, and replaying them a few times to see if I made the right choice. With Bowser's pinball machine from DS, I immediately regretted it. Yeah, how dare I place it at 15 instead of 14. In reality, my regret came from saying it wasn't my favorite board from DS. Don't get me wrong, Toad's Music Room is great, but Bowser's pinball machine is even better. First off, the pinball machine aesthetic is awesome. It ties into the board with happening spaces like the bumpers that will send you flying, the cannon, and of course, the Bowser Zone. Landing on these happening spaces 90% of the time will send you to the Bowser Zone. The other 10% will send you to the Star Zone. The Star Zone simply gives you 1 to 3 stars for free. The Bowser Zone has 5 happening spaces, all of which will make you lose all of your coins and all of your stars. The thing is, it isn't random in the slightest. You have to go out of your way to even get to the launcher. You can just keep going around in circles at the top and never even risk landing on them. You can also build up your items since there's a shop up there, and easily escape if you do end up in the Bowser Zone. This can also provide some huge cutbacks if you take the risk to go into the Star Zone. So yeah, this is a huge amount of risk versus reward, and I love it. Overall, I could see anyone having a good time on this board. Except for John.
Game, if you roll me a 4, I'm gonna cry. You piece
of shit! You piece of shit! Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
After all of the Mario Party 5 boards that were just fine, I was really surprised by Bowser Nightmare. It's way bigger than most of the other boards in 5, so it stands out a lot more. Honestly, the thing I like most about this board is strangely the Circle of Death. Similarly to the Bowser Zone and Bowser's Pinball Machine, it's out of the way, and you are almost never forced to go towards it. There are 2 entrances to it, but both of them are in paths that act as massive shortcuts, and it's a big risk to use them. The star also can't spawn inside of the circle, so there's never a point where you're baited into it just to get stuck inside. The star can spawn on the path that enters the Circle of Death, and you can avoid it if you don't want to risk getting trapped. However, the best part of this board is the happening space that'll have Bowser go for a walk and turn all of the blue spaces he passes red. Okay, not really, but it's really funny.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
Pirate Dream from 5 is so great. It's really big, with many different ways to go, Thwomp and Womp tools for different areas, the waterfall that will send you to the bottom if you land on the happening space, the pirate ship, and the cannon that will launch you to a different area. It all just comes together so well and feels like an adventure. I mean, the song is literally called An Adventurer, so that says it all right there. While it doesn't have the risk and reward of Bowser Nightmare or Bowser's Pinball Machine, it makes up for it with how big it is and how all of the events work. I still can't believe this isn't the same game as Toy Dream.
Look, I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Woody was the only board from Mario Party 3 that's in Mario Party Superstars, and yes, I am still mad that they only picked 1 board from 3. This isn't even in my top half of Mario Party 3 boards, and yet it's still ranked at 11. The main gimmick of this board is these signs that force you in the direction and switch every turn, just like the doors in Luigi's Engine Room. Since this game has items, it just makes it way better since you can strategize when you want to arrive at each junction, as well as the reverse mushroom letting you choose which way you want to go at junctions. It all just comes together very nicely. There are also still the stations where you can pay to switch the signs, adding even more strategy to the mix. The boo placement is also really good, being out of the way, but if you have a reverse mushroom, you can reach him easily from the other side. I guess what I'm trying to say is, bring back reverse mushrooms, please.
Are we being too literal?
No, you fool, we're following orders. We were told to comb the desert, so we're combing it.
Spiny Desert from 3 is so amazing. The main gimmick is that there are always 2 stars that spawn, but one of them is fake. You won't know which one it is until you walk up to one of them, or until you use a magic lamp, which always takes you to the real star. The sizing layout works so well with this gimmick that it doesn't feel luck-based at all. There are so many ways to get around, like with these cacti that always send you to the same spot depending on which one you run into, or jump over both, and these circles with happening spaces that will send everyone inside to the other one. With all of this, planning out your route matters so much since not only do you need to get to the star, but you also need to plan which one to go to first in case it's not the right one, and easily get to the other one. Or you could just keep going in circles to get the happening star, that works too.
No, light speed is too slow. Light speed too slow? Yes, we're gonna have to go right to ludicrous speed.
Spaceland from 2. Insert synonym for amazing. The main attraction here is the circle in the middle. When you get there, you choose one of 4 directions to go, making it a great way to get around. The circle has a counter that starts at 5 and subtracts by 1 when someone goes by. Once it hits 0, Bowser will shoot a laser across this diagonal path, and everyone who gets hit by it will lose all of their coins. I love this as it can be completely planned around, since it will always be shot in the same spot every time, and you should always be aware of the counter. You also have to choose to go on the path of the laser, so if you want to, you can just avoid it the whole game. But if you do that, you go down this path where all of the happening spaces will have a thwomp and a space car send everyone back to the beginning of the path. You can also pay the Sniffin Patrol 5 coins to make it so the happening spaces send you on the path towards the middle, which is also the laser path. This provides even more risk reward, as if you want to take the easy way to escape the loop, you risk losing all of your coins with the laser. That being said, I don't like how they changed this in the Superstars version. Instead of taking you out of the loop, the Sniffin Patrol just makes the loop longer and gets rid of the risk. I'm only mentioning this because this is the only Superstars board that's not just slightly better or slightly worse than the original. However, that can't stop how much I love this original board.
What's to do for a party of 3?
What's that, Tim?
Is to climb a tree.
Towering Treetop from 6 is a fairly simple starting board on the surface, but there are so many great elements that elevate it way more. There's a surprising amount of branching paths for a beginner board, but I guess they kind of had to because tree. The main thing is the day and night cycle's many different effects. First, some of the paths become longer or shorter depending on the time, making you have to think about when you want to use your items. It also changes if you see Woody or Evil Woody at the top of the board. Take a guess which one takes coins and which one gives coins. The biggest change in the day and night cycle is the Pink Boo. He's Pink Boo since Boo got upgraded to a playable character. Anyway, Pink Boo only appears at night, so if you want to steal, you need to plan out your move so you can arrive at the right time. This also gives a lot of value to the Thwomp item to block off the Pink Boo. There's a happening space to let you travel to a different spot on the board, and one that has you tickle the tree to have him sneeze to knock every player down. Yeah, all of it is pretty simple, but added together makes Towering Treetop a really compelling board. I love it.
Wasteland? I think you mean Wonderland!
Chilly Waters from 3 is my pick for the best beginner board. Like, it has way more going for it than Deep Blooper Sea, so I don't know why that wasn't the starting board, but whatever. Anyway, the main thing that makes this my favorite starting board is the frozen lake in the middle. Similarly to Spaceland, this middle section lets you go pretty much in every direction, so it's a really great travel option. However, when 2 players stop on the frozen lake, it cracks and sends both players to this space. This adds a ton of strategy since you need to wait to go across the lake, or you could choose to crack the ice to prevent someone else from going somewhere. That's not even mentioning the snowman at the top that will throw a snowball either to the left or the right side when you pay him 5 coins, or lay it on the happening space. If the snowball isn't going the way you want to go, you could just jump over it. Seriously, bring back action times, you cowards. You know, if this board wasn't so good, I would probably have to rank it last place, solely because of this penguin murdering a snowman. I don't feel bad for throwing the baby penguins off the cliff anymore.
It's time to stop!
Clockwork Castle from 6 easily has the best use of the day and night cycle. During the day, Donkey Kong has a star for 20 coins, and he'll roll a die after everyone's turn and move. If you catch him and buy a star, he'll jump somewhere else on the board. But if he runs into you, you can buy a star from him, and he'll keep going normally, so you can run into him again. Once it becomes night, DK is replaced with Bowser, and everyone will move in the opposite direction. Instead of giving you a star, Bowser will take one, or coins if you don't have one. There are also pipes that can take you to the opposite side of the board, and it's randomized which ones connect to each other. All of this combined with the items make it so amazing. It's all about how you position yourself based on where DK or Bowser is, what time it is, where the closest pipes are, how close or far to DK or Bowser those pipes will take you. It provides so many different strategies. You can also risk getting close to Bowser when it's about to become day, to get its star right away. If you get caught by Bowser, it's not because of some random BS, it's because you didn't strategize properly. It may seem too gimmicky to some, but Clockwork Castle has an amazing execution.
Ooh, Mario's Tunnel of Doom. Very scary.
Wow, Horrorland from 2 is so amazing. It was the introduction to the day and night cycle, and it uses it so well. There are womps that will block off certain paths and let you pass for 5 coins. However, at night, they freeze in place and you won't be able to go in that direction. This means you always need to keep your eyes on the clock and plan your route accordingly. The same applies to all the boos on the board. Some of them only appear at night, and some only appear during the day. There is a point where there are 2 boos placed in a row, and in order to see them both, you need to be able to plan out a route and arrive at the right time. There's also a big boo that will only appear at night, and is placed behind a skeleton key door. This is my favorite use of the skeleton key door, and actually works really well with 2 singular item system. If you want to see the big boo, you have to go out of your way to do so, since having a skeleton key in your inventory locks you out of anything to help you get there. With the big boo being so powerful, it should be really hard to get to, while also not being too hard like with Boo's Haunted Trash. Horrorland's big boo nails this balance perfectly. The Mr. Eye that lets you travel across the board is the cherry on top of this excellent board. It's weird to think that the only horror board to knock it out of the park was the first one.
You bring a light? No.
Creepy Cavern from 3 is the pinnacle of island crossing boards. There are 3 different ways to cross between the two, and they strike the balance of being hard enough to where you have to plan out your route and your items, and not being too hard or luck-based to where it's just annoying. You can use a skeleton key, pay a thwomp to ride a minecart, or land on a happening space to have the minecart chase you across. There are also 2 different minecarts, and they can only be stopped at 1/2, so that's another thing to look out for. That's not even mentioning the womp that blocks off part of the board, and will only move if you give him a certain item he wants or land on a happening space. Once again, strategizing properly is key here. You always need to be aware of how you are able to get to where you need to go, as well as getting the right items to do so. However, none of that actually matters, because the only reason this board is good is because of these womps playing a Mario Party board game. Amazing.
We have technology.
EGAT's Garage from 6 is such an amazing board. The theme not only is a great interpretation of a garage that EGAT would own, but it also ties into the board design itself perfectly. All of the happening spaces are tied to different inventions and provide a ton of different strategies. The teleporters are great ways to get around quickly, the orb converter is a great way to return your items if you don't want them, and have them converted into different items during the day, or coins at night, and the orb launcher lets you place random orbs on random spaces for a chunk of coins if you want to cover more ground with orbs. The rotating platform in the middle keeps you on your toes since it could change up your route drastically. All of that is great, but it is elevated even more by 6's item system. This game has the best balance of traps to set down and ways to help you get to where you need to go. It's tough to decide which item you want, and any choice you make could end up making a huge difference in the future. EGAT's Garage is so big that exploring and laying down traps is so much fun, and the theme ties into it perfectly. This is the best board for the second best Mario character. Who's the first, you might ask? Well...
I bless the rains down wherever he can.
As much as EGAT's Garage is a great reflection of his character, Waluigi's Island from 3 does it even better. Waluigi is a crazy guy, and his island reflects that perfectly. Every part of this board is crazy, and yet none of it feels unfair. The circle in the middle has a counter that starts at 5, and subtracts 1 for every happening space landed on. Once it reaches 0, every player in that circle will lose all of their coins. Every path on this board leads back to the circle, so you need to be aware of what the number is to make sure you arrive at the right time. And the left path has a skeleton key door that will have you go in a circle to avoid the main circle for a bit longer, if the counter is low. There's also a great deal of risk to keep going around over and over to easily win the happening star. Once you leave, a spinner will decide which way you go, but it's not random, it's based on timing. And if you're not able to time it correctly, no worries, just use a reverse mushroom. In the top right corner, there's a 50-50 chance to either see Boo or get sent back to start. I appreciate that they put Boo in a spot where the normal way to get to him isn't guaranteed, but you can choose to avoid the 50-50 chance to use a reverse mushroom to get into the back entrance. Seriously, the reverse mushroom is awesome. I haven't even mentioned my favorite part of the board. The top left corner has the, say, space island thing. The one where all the spaces are the exact same except for the one bank, and will change every turn. There are 2 entrances to this island, via drawbridges, and only one will be down at a time. Landing on the happening spaces next to either one will switch the 2. Making the right decision at the spinner is key, since you need to pay attention to where you land after either going up or left to make sure you are able to enter the island. This island has my favorite risk-reward factor out of any Mario Party board. The island has the potential to be a huge game changer with chance times, Bowser spaces, game guy spaces, or battle spaces. Or it could just be super lame and only get blue and red spaces. There's only one way out, so choosing whether to leave the island or keep going around could either win or lose you the game. If you get unlucky, well, that's the risk of even going up there. All of this craziness combined creates the best board for the best Mario character. Koopa's Tycoon Town is humanity's greatest achievement. The main gimmick is just like Windmillville's, but there are some changes that make it way better. First off, investing into hotels makes way more sense than investing into windmills. I guess I actually don't know. Do people from the Netherlands invest in windmills? Anyway, the actual first reason is that the value of each hotel is determined by how many total coins are invested into it. 20 coins makes it worth 2 stars, and 50 coins makes it worth 3 stars. There's an exception with both lucky spaces taking you to 2 different automatic 3-star hotels, depending on which lucky space you land on. The second, and the main reason, is because you can choose which hotels you want to go to. So not only do you have to win enough minigames to have enough coins to invest, you also need to decide which hotels you need to go to at what time. Another choice you have to make is whether you want to spend your coins on items or not. You can buy vampire candies to steal coins from other players, multiple dice blocks to get to hotels faster, or slogos to guarantee landing on one of the lucky spaces. Or you could just ignore the shops and focus on hotels only. Not only that, but you can also choose how many coins you want to invest into each hotel, which hotels you decide to go for, only go for one hotel and make sure no one can steal it, form fake alliances with other players only to stab them in the back later. There are so many different possibilities, and I love it. Every decision you make can have a massive influence on the game. Just to add that bit of luck that I love in Mario Party, there are bandit happening spaces that will have a bandit steal coins from one of the hotels and give them to you. The DK space will have DK invest some of his coins into a hotel, and the Bowser space will have him take coins from one of the hotels. These are just the cherry on top, since it's up to the player to come up with a strategy to counteract each of these random events. So even if you get unlucky, it still comes down to how well you can strategize. And that's why Koopa's Tycoon Town is easily my favorite Mario Party board. Well, there you have it. I love Mario Party, and making this ranking further proved that to me. Even though I hated all of the boards from 9, 10, and the 3DS games, the rest of the boards are so much fun, even the ones that aren't as good, that I just don't care. And hey, it looks like NDCube is finally learning how to make good Mario Party boards, with Mario Party Superstars and the soon-to-be-released Super Mario Party Jamboree. The boards they showed off look really good, especially that mall one. Okay, did I forget anything? Did I mention everything I wanted to? Wait.
What board do you want to play?
Oh, Rules Land.
No, I want Rules Land.
I want Rules Land.
I want Rules Land. I want Rules. My land.
Rules Land from 2 is the greatest Mario Party board of all time. It may just be a circle with a line in the middle, but that line provides some of the best risk and reward in the entire series. There's a chance time space right there, and it will surely put every player in a constant state of fear. Forget investing in hotels. The players invest their lives every time they play Rules Land, and that's why Rules Land is the actual greatest Mario Party board of all time. Okay, now did I say everything I wanted to? Oh yeah, there is one more thing. Did I justify Mario Party 8 yet?